There are matches that are played, and there are matches that are etched forever in World Cup history. And what we just experienced between Mexico and South Africa was exactly that. Because when the referee signaled the start of the match, millions of people around the world were watching the opening kick of the 2026 World Cup. The ceremony was over. The stands were a real spectacle. The pressure was enormous, and everyone knew one thing. Mexico was not allowed to fail, because opening a World Cup in front of your home crowd is not a normal match. It's a gigantic responsibility. And the most incredible thing is that the first few minutes showed that nerves were completely out of control. But wait, because what happened during the first half hour absolutely surprised everyone. Because there was a moment when it seemed like South Africa was much more comfortable on the field than the Mexican team itself, and nobody expected that. Mexico started out trying to monopolize possession, looking for long passing sequences, trying to take emotional control of the match, but the reality was different. South Africa came out brave, with no inferiority complex, without fear, pressing high, winning duels, running for every ball as if it were the last one. And for several minutes they managed something very difficult, to partially silence the stadium. Because the African team started to show some very positive signs. Every recovery created danger, every transition generated uncertainty. And Mexico began to make uncharacteristic mistakes, inaccurate passes, faulty controls, nerves, a lot of nerves. The pressure of the debut was taking its toll, and then the first big chance came. A quick play, a very quick one from South Africa. Cross into the box. Shot. And a spectacular save prevented the first goal of the World Cup. The stadium breathed a sigh of relief. Mexico had just received the first serious warning. But that was nothing compared to what would happen a few minutes later. Because the match was about to explode. From the 20th minute on, the game started to change. Mexico understood that they needed to speed up, that moving the ball slowly was favoring South Africa. And their most decisive players started to appear. The combination play between the lines, the switches of play, the runs down the flanks. Everything started to work better. The fans started to get behind them too, and then the first roar of the night rang out. A long-range shot, a rebound, and a very clear chance that was just centimeters from being a goal. The stadium erupted. The tension was absolute, because everyone felt that the first goal was close, and just when it seemed like Mexico was definitely dominating. One of the most controversial plays of the entire night came next. A play that caused protests, replays, and a huge discussion among fans and commentators. A cross from out wide, a contested ball, a fall inside the box. All of Mexico called for a penalty. All of South Africa wanted the game to continue. The referee hesitated. He listened to the VAR. He waited. The whole stadium held its breath. And finally, he decided not to call anything. The tension rose even more, because the Mexicans felt they had missed a huge opportunity. But soccer has something wonderful, when it seems like a referee's decision changes history. But often, destiny has something even bigger in store, and that's exactly what happened, because the first goal of the World Cup was just seconds away. And no one was prepared for the explosion that followed. Around the 30th minute, ball won back in the attacking half. Through ball, perfect run, spectacular finish, goal for Mexico, the World Cup's first goal. A goal that will remain forever in the history books. The stadium literally shook, thousands and thousands of fans jumping at the same time. Flags, screams, tears, hugs, all mixed together in an impressive scene. Mexico took the lead. And for the first time, it finally seemed to shake off the psychological weight it had carried through the opening stretch. But the best was yet to come, because South Africa had no intention of giving up. What happened before halftime completely changed the match, and very few saw it coming. After the Mexican goal, South Africa reacted admirably. Many teams would have collapsed. They didn't. They kept attacking. They kept believing. They kept pressing. And they got their reward. A magnificent play, speed, precision, finishing. Because no one wanted to become the first big disappointment of the World Cup. The final minutes of the first half were a real battle. Tackles, duels, chances, tension, and when halftime arrived, no one really knew who would end up taking the victory. But the Mexican locker room came out with a completely different idea. And that changed the match. The second half started with a different pace. Much more aggressive, much more vertical, much more intense. Mexico understood that they couldn't sit back, that they had to attack, that they had to take advantage of the momentum from their fans, and they started to pin South Africa back. The chances kept coming. Crosses kept piling up, corners kept coming constantly. And then one of the match's standout players emerged, the man who changed absolutely everything. A footballer who decided to take responsibility when the pressure was at its highest. And he did it spectacularly, because his play was possibly the best individual action of the entire match. He received the ball near the box, turned, got past one opponent, beat another, got into shooting position, and took an impossible shot. Amazing goal. A truly amazing goal. One of those that we'll probably see replayed throughout the entire World Cup. The crowd erupted. His teammates ran toward him. The excitement was immense. Mexico took the lead again, and this time the feeling was different. This time it seemed that the team had found confidence, had found character, had found their game. But the World Cup is never easy. Never. Because South Africa had an incredible chance to tie the game again, and they were just centimeters away. Minutes, 60-something, a long ball, defensive breakdown, one-on-one, everything looked like a goal. Everything, but it turned out to be a spectacular save. A vital save, possibly the most important save of the match, because if that ball had gone in, the story could have been completely different. Mexico survived, and from that point on, began to control the tempo better, to slow the game down, to wear down South Africa, to play intelligently, and little by little the end of the match was drawing near, although before that, something happened that caused great concern. One of Mexico's most important players fell to the ground, grabbed his leg, and called for assistance. The entire stadium fell silent, because an injury in the first match of the World Cup can be devastating. Fortunately, he was able to continue, but for several minutes the scare was huge. And while everyone was still focused on that situation, Mexico was preparing the final blow. Absolute madness. The celebration perfectly reflected what that goal meant. Mexico saw victory very close, too close to let it slip away, and South Africa began to feel the physical exhaustion. Their legs felt heavy, spaces started to open up, and their energy was fading. Meanwhile, the Mexican fans started to enjoy themselves, to sing, to celebrate, to believe, because the World Cup dream was starting exactly as they had imagined.